All right, everyone, welcome back into another live edition of the Patriots Beat podcast here on the CLNS Media Network, presented by our wonderful friends over at Game Time and Factor Meals. It's Brian Hines back as always with Alex Barth. Day 5 of training camp is over, done with, finished. First day in pads. We got some real football, some wet weather too down there at Gillette today, but we got to start off the football field, kind of off the football field. He was on the football field, but he didn't put any pads on. That was Matthew Judon. I thought we were going to be kind of done talking about his contract situation until we got something concrete that actually finalized, but that was not the case because even though we didn't put pads on, Matt Judon probably had the most eventful day out on the field today. And to break down his day, he ran out without his pads on, went over to play catch with the fans, which is how he starts every practice, right? But then once stretching started, he went back over. And unlike the last 4 days where he would put on his jersey and helmet and stretch and start practice, he sat on a block of pads, the whatever, blocking pads, and watched stretching. And then when the team broke for positional drills, he went over and just kind of hovered around his position. Didn't seem like he was getting in the way at all, but just hovered. And Gerard Mayo spoke with him when he was sitting on the pads. And then when they broke, he eventually came back. Looked like kind of an animated conversation. There were a lot of palms in the air, some shoulder shrugs. That was the video NBC Sports Boston had on Twitter, on X, if you didn't see that. And then he left. He left the practice field after the second conversation with Gerard Mayo. About 10, 15 minutes later, I think it was, he came back up and went right to Elliot Wolf, went right to Matt Groh, and had another sort of animated conversation with them. And then he left for good. So putting it together, putting the puzzle pieces together, he's obviously not happy. First day of pads, or he's told us he's not happy with his contract. First day of pads, didn't seem like he was interested in participating. And it kind of just seemed like Gerard Mayo told them, if you don't want to participate, just get out of here. Like, we don't want you on the field right now. So eventful day for Matt Judon. What was your kind of take on the whole situation there from him today?
Not good. I mean, not good. The body language wasn't good. It was a looming presence even after he was on the field, or after he was off the field. You still just kind of sense that tense, is tense. And this is a guy that we know wants a new contract. Like, it's pretty clear what he wants. There's no hidden messages here. And it felt like he was, from where we were last week, where the Patriots, he talked about, Judon talked about the contract and the situation with the Patriots. He felt good. I don't know what happened from last week to this week, but suddenly it does not feel as optimistic about Matthew Judon. I think you see something like that and you really wonder what his immediate future is with the team, as in, like, will he be there week 1?
Kind of a weird move, right? After what he said last week, that he's, open. He doesn't want to play on the deal, but he's open to it, right? He's going to honor the contract. He signed it. Then to come out here a week later and just feel like I'm not participating. And
so, and we're just speculating here.
Yeah.
I need to be clear about that. He did say in there that ultimately he wants respect. And what if something happened to the negotiations where maybe he felt he was willing to play under the contract, but something happened where he felt disrespected?
So that's what, I forget who, it might have been Taylor, I was saying. And we said after he said he had his comments last week, like, kind of sounded like maybe comments that he would say knowing that maybe something's close to getting done, right? Like, oh, I'll play on my $6.5 million deal or whatever it is, and maybe knowing in the back of his mind something's close to getting done. So maybe something did break down over the last week that shifted his opinion on that, or lost some respect that he was talking about there. And also, maybe it's worth noting that Davon Godchaux, the other guy who has a contract dispute, his agent, Drew Rosenhaus, was in attendance today. And Rosenhaus had a long chat with Matt Groh during practice, like right in the friends and family tent. And then after practice, Rosenhaus had a long chat with Davon Godchaux, and then Mayo eventually joined that. So I don't know if that would impact Judon. Like if they know something behind the scenes is going to get done with Godchaux any moment. If Judon's like, okay, I'm the last guy here. I probably shouldn't be the last guy. I've been your best player for the last 3 years. If that has something to do with it, I don't know. Did you read anything into the Godchaux situation, either on its own with maybe a deal coming for him, or would that affect Judon's case at all here?
I mean, on the Godchaux front, I feel like if you bring the agent to town, that's a sign that you're near the finish line, if not done.
He did that,
right?
He did that 2 years ago when he got his bump. Rosenhaus was in attendance, like right.
Yeah,
before
I think he came one time for like a Trent Brown thing too, when Trent Brown had his
Yeah.
contract altered. So he's not come to town to start the negotiations. He's come to town to finish them. Let's put it that way. So in that sense, yeah, it feels like there's probably something either done or almost done with Davon Godchaux. As relates to Matthew Judon, could he see that and say, well, you paid everybody else and not me, so I'm here waiting when you're ready? Like, could it be something like that? And I'm not the only one with that take. I saw Greg Bedard tweeted something like that out. Yeah, I could totally see that. That he's just like, it's a boiling point. It's a breaking point where, because I get it. How is he the one guy that doesn't get paid? Yeah. You could argue he's been, at least as a player, the face of the franchise post Brady. It was supposed to be Mac Jones. That obviously didn't work out. Cam Newton kind of had his 1 year, but has there been a player more synonymous with the Patriots post Brady than Matthew Judon? There hasn't. And how is, when you have this offseason where you're handing out contracts left and right, how is he the one guy that doesn't get one? I understand the frustration if that's the case.
Yep. So I guess just wrap up the contract talk here. I know you said maybe less optimistic about the future. How would you say this ends if you had to guess? Are you still thinking they get something done here? Or
I don't know, man.
I mean, he was also, we can also add, he was on, there was a clip that came out from a podcast that he'll be on, or he was on, it will be released soon. And he said, they have the most cap space in the league. Like, why can't you just get something done? Like, why can't you take care of me? He said he wrote up his own contract proposal and submitted it to them. They clearly didn't like that, or it would have got signed already. But it's tough to, I think last week at this time we were saying, okay, we probably predict something's going to get done here. But now it definitely muddied the water a little bit. But if you had to predict, what would you kind of say?
I don't know. I mean, gut check, I think he's here, but call that like 55-45. I mean, I think after a display like that, everything's on the table.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're right back to the contract saga. We'll see if he's out there tomorrow. I don't like, if they're not in pads tomorrow, is he just going to practice tomorrow? And is this going to be a pad only thing? We'll just kind of have to wait and see. Like,
pads or not, I don't know how you just come back out business as usual after something like that. And maybe he does, and maybe that's what they want to do. Just forget today happened. But
it would just be another weird twist to this story. Like,
do you remember when you were a kid, and you'd have a bunch of people together? I'm talking like little kid, and like one kid would freak out, and like one of the parents would have to take him in the other room and talk to him. And it was always that weird thing when he came back where like nobody wanted to acknowledge it, but like it took a couple of minutes for him to like, for the climate to reacclimate.
Yeah.
Like, isn't there a little bit of that?
Yeah. Yeah, I could definitely see that, especially after this, if he came back. So we can move on, though, to the on-field stuff, and we'll start with the defense, speaking of Judon. Well, I guess first day of pads, but as a whole, we were kind of talking down there between the Judon situation and then the scary Christian Barmore situation yesterday, and maybe the rain, the weather had something to do with this. It was kind of like a lower tempo, lower energy first day of pads, at least it felt like, than usual. But we saw some one-on-one work in the trenches. We saw, and then lots of, the typical practice, how it's been, lots of 7s, lots of 11s, lots of team work. But we can start on the defense. We can start in the trenches because they have to replace Christian Barmore from a football perspective. And if Matthew Judon's not out there, they're going to have to replace Matthew Judon. So I don't know, did you notice any players who saw an increased role today at their guys' spots, or anyone impress you now that we finally got a little bit more of a look at that front 7 with with the contact and with the pads on.
The more reps was Tristan Hill, the defensive tackle. It was mostly with the second team, but he hadn't been repping a ton at all in team before that. So maybe somebody they're getting better, ready for a bigger role. Hill's an interesting player. He's a second-round pick in 2019 with the Cowboys. Was in Dallas for 3.5 years, but just never caught on. He had a slow start. He got hurt at one point. He tore his ACL, missed a season. I think he was suspended at one point. He got in a fight or something. So he was there for 3.5 years, kind of bounced around, signed with the Patriots last year on the practice squad, only played in one game. But, old school Patriots, Belichick, this would be like he's the profile of they found this guy on the scrap heap, and now look at him. He's a contributor kind of player. And obviously Belichick was the one who found him, signed him. That more athletic defensive tackle, attacking defensive tackle. Daniel Ekuale is the guy you figure will step up, but now you need a backup for Daniel Ekuale. I saw Tristan Hill repping more. As for who played well, I thought on the edge, and this is more of a Judon thing than a Barmore thing, O'Shane Jimenez had a really good day. There was one 11th period where he wrecked the whole thing on himself. I mean, multiple plays where he was stepping up and putting an end to things. He had a sack. He had, I think, 2 run stuffs during that period. And he had a good spring too. When they were kind of thin on the edge and guys didn't report, he was able to leave a mark. So he's a guy that I've kind of penciled in as could be a sleeper for a roster spot and got off to a good start.
Yeah, I definitely had him. He gave Chuks Okorafor kind of the business in one of those 11-on-11 plays. At least 2 or 3 pressures and probably, as you said, a would-be sack there. The other guy I'll add for the defensive line, maybe looking to replace Christian Barmore a little bit, is Armon Watts, who was, a lower-level free agent signing back in March from Pittsburgh. But he mentioned this is nothing new to him. Like, he was in Minnesota one year, and Mike Pierce, their big defensive tackle, went down, and he stepped up, and he had a career year. He had 5 sacks that year. And then, he was more of a limited role in Pittsburgh last year, but some of his analytics, like if you look at his, true pass, I think it's in PFF, it's like true pass sets, and then his win rate, like he was 3rd or 4th in the league among defensive tackles, interior defensive linemen there. So, and he spoke after practice. You're obviously not going to replace Christian Barmore one-on-one, but if you can get some of these guys, if you can get Tristan Hill, if you can get Armon Watts, if you get maybe Jeremiah Farms in on the early downs, if these guys can, combine and do their job and try to replace 75-80% of them, that's how you have to replace a guy like Christian Barmore there. So agree up front with you. Definitely Jimenez is a guy who stood out there on day one.
Is it Jimenez or Jimenez?
Jimenez? I don't know. That's a good. I've been so bad.
I need to ask him because I've heard it. Usually, I try to look it up, like how the announcers are doing it, but I've heard announcers do it different ways. So I gotta, especially now if he's going to be making plays, we got to find out.
I don't think we've talked to him since he signed.
We haven't. He signed super late.
He signed late.
Yeah, he keeps making plays like this though. He'll talk.
Yeah, 100%. So, yeah, he'll be active, especially if Judon's like this. And Josh Uche got kicked out of practice today. Quick whistle on that one. Like, it was a little scrum with Chuks Okorafor. It looked like, Uche just gave him one of those, straight arms up to the chin area after a pass rush, and they got in a little bit, and they kicked Uche right out, and Okorafor just missed 1 rep, but he got to stay in for the rest of practice. So, that was kind of the front 7 report, I'd say, unless any linebackers stand out to you. Not too much from them today, but I don't know anything. Yeah, and not much from that group. But secondary, kind of a rough one for Alex Austin, even though he's been kind of arrow pointed up to start the spring and start the summer. He gave up deep ball. He gave up 2 deep balls, one to Tyquan Thornton and one to Javon Baker, who continues just to make big plays every day. We can talk about more of him later, but I thought it was kind of the first down practice for Alex Austin. But did you see anything from him or any of those other secondary players out there today?
Rough day for him. I would say he's built up enough good practices that you kind of look at it and say, all right, he had a down day. I'll check in with him again tomorrow. Elsewhere in the secondary, we saw Marcus Jones play some safety.
Yep.
which we've kind of seen them mix a few guys in at free
Jones
safety
a
there.
little bit too.
John Jones did a little bit. He has Marcus Jones continues to just be great this summer.
Yeah.
He not another pass breakup today, but just like tight coverage kind of took away a window. I think that was pretty much it in the secondary today. I mean, they ran the ball a lot. So
yeah, definitely.
As is typical for the first day of Pats.
Yeah, definitely kind of a quieter day back there. I mean, yeah, like Drake May's first 4 reps and 11s or 3 or 4 reps were all run. So kind of a quieter day in the secondary there. Oh, Kyle Duggar had an interception, which kind of ripped it right out of Mitchell Wilcox's hands.
Yeah. We'll get to Mitchell Wilcox.
Yeah, we'll get to Mitchell Wilcox. Rough one for him, but yeah, kind of quiet. Like they didn't do one-on-ones with wide receivers and defensive backs today, so a little bit quieter of a day for them with the pads on. So, anything else? Defense, wrap up defense. Anything else you have there? I think that was mostly it. We can't say Gerard Mayo did give an update on Christian Barmore. It wasn't much of an update, but he touched on it to open his press conference. He just said no timetable for a return. You know, all these situations are different, but he is out of the hospital. He's not in the hospital anymore. And he said he was at least doing well. He was in good spirits. So we'll continue to wait and see on Christian Barmore there, but I believe that will do it for the defense. We'll take a very quick break. We'll hear from our friends over at Game Time, and then we'll come back and talk about the offensive performance out there today. I got to talk to you guys about Game Time, which is the authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, and it makes getting tickets faster and easier because prices on the Game Time app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guaranteed, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying all your MLB tickets. They have flash deals to save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event, and zone deals to save if you're looking to sit in a specific section. It is baseball season, and the Red Sox are hot, and while they're going on the road for the next week, they'll be back in Fenway against the Yankees, where you can see All-Star Game MVP Jarren Duran as the Red Sox continue to make their playoff push. And if you're in the Boston area, if you're around Fenway, Cask and Flagon, Bleacher Bar, getting a bite to eat, getting a drink, Game Time has last-minute deals where you can save up to 60% off on buying last-minute tickets for sports. So make sure you check the Game Time app right before first pitch to make sure you're not missing any last-minute deals. And you can even get your comedy, theater, or concert tickets on Game Time as well. So take the guesswork out of buying all your MLB tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app today, create an account, and use code CLNS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code CLNS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed. I was looking up an O'Shane Zimenez highlight reel during that break,
okay.
And this announcer said like Zimenez with a Z almost. I don't know. Can you?
Zimenez? When's that? What is that from? Is that NFL?
Yeah, that was Giants,
maybe
Panthers, Giants. That was his first sack in 2019. O'Shea Zimenez. It is. So that's what we'll roll with for now, unless we talk to him and he tells us we're wrong and different. Actually, there's probably a pronunciation online, but whatever.
We did get the media book yesterday.
Yeah, right here. Pull that up at some point.
Pull it. Ask me a question and pull it.
All right. I'll tee you off first, and then I'll look this up. Offense, kind of a tale of two units, I would say today, but we'll start with the starting offense, which is still run by Jacoby Brissett. Felt like they gained some positive momentum out there today. It wasn't perfect by all means, but it was a solid day for them and Jacoby Brissett. It felt like the pass protection was a little cleaner. They opened up some holes in the run game, specifically broke some of those outside zone runs. So what did you see from Jacoby and kind of that whole unit? Because it seemed, again, like they kind of took a step forward there with the full pads on today.
Well, I'll start here. Jacoby Brissett's been really good. Jacoby Brissett, we use the term stacking days in camp, where you're just getting a little bit better every day, and it starts to look like linear growth. And that's what Jacoby Brissett has done here early in camp. He's gotten off to a fantastic start. And the big thing is, even when the blocking hasn't been great, we'll get to the offensive line. I actually think the top offensive line had a solid day today. They were fine. And they didn't blow anybody away, but they were fine. But even when it hasn't been great, his ability to make things work and throw off platform and extend plays and get creative has been apparent. He hasn't exactly been Patrick Mahomes out there, but compared to expectations, I'd say he's been pretty good. And with Drake Maye going through some growing pains, that's encouraging because he's allowed, he had two throws to Tyquan Thornton today, right in the breadbasket. To deep ball to Javon Baker, really good ball placement. Some of the throws he's made to Jalen Polk. You're not having your young receivers go through the growing pains along with your young quarterback. And as Drake Maye maybe needs a little more time, Jacoby Brissett, at the very least, this isn't me saying they're going to win 8 games because Jacoby Brissett's going to be comeback player of the year. But at the very least, Jacoby Brissett's giving them something where their young receivers can still develop, even with Drake Maye a little bit behind. So that's a long way from anything overly positive, I know, but it's a small victory. And this time of year, sometimes you take those small victories.
Yep. So quick timeout. They have it Zimenez too in the media guide. So
all right, so it's
Zimenez. That's what we're rolling with.
O'Shea Zimenez. The N is silent, right? It's not O'Shane. It's O'Shea. You just closed it. I suck.
Oh,
you left it open to the page.
I just put it back. I left the page open. They only have pronunciation for his first name, so I guess, or for his last name, I mean. So
I think it's O'Shea. I that one sounded pretty consistent when I was listening.
Now we got to ask him for his first name pronunciation. All right, we're halfway there. We'll just call him Zimenez for now.
Zimenez, O'Shea Zimenez. Okay,
but yeah, Jacoby just he's been steady kind of throughout camp, and I'd agree. I'd say this was his best day, and he finally started connecting on some of those downfield shots, I think, which is one of the areas early on that Maye kind of had the upper advantage. He had 2 deep to Tyquan Thornton, one beautiful over the shoulder right in the bucket. I think the Patriots social posted that one, and then 2 really to Javon Baker, one that he went up and over, and he dropped another one right in the bucket down the left sideline, but Baker wasn't able to bring it in. So I thought he's looked very good for what Jacoby Brissett kind of is at this point. And yeah, if you're not ready for Maye, and looking at Drake Maye in his first day in pads, he didn't look like someone who might be ready to start week 1. I think you could be pretty confident with Jacoby Brissett with his experience in the system and the play and the performance he's shown you so far. You feel pretty confident maybe with him rolling in to the regular season here as your week 1 starter.
Yeah, we're a bit of a ways from that, but he looks comfortable. He's building some chemistry with these receivers. If Drake Maye gotten off to the start, we'd be doing backflips. So.
Yeah, because
but the difference is Jacoby Brissett is in his 30s and has been in the NFL for almost a decade.
Yeah, but it's been steady has been the word the last few days I've been used to describe Jacoby Brissett, which is what you would expect and want from kind of this bridge quarterback. So I think just that unit as a whole with him at the helm, it looked pretty good today. Probably their best day of the summer. Again, it wasn't great. There were still a lot of penalty laps. I think with him, they had 2 snap infractions. I'm counting up here. One was Ramondre Stevenson, and one was both tackles on the same play, Caedan Wallace and Chukwuekorfor, so they had laps there. There was another lap with Joe Milton, and it was Tyron Wheatley too. So, and then one time they sent the whole team for a lap. So still some stuff to clean up there. But yeah, I think it's just been steady for Jacoby Brissett. But Drake Maye was kind of the different story. And I told everyone yesterday, Barth jinxed it because he said he was going to come back and bounce back after kind of an erratic day yesterday. Struggled with some accuracy issues. Again, he threw the interception we talked about earlier to Kyle Duggar. It was intended to Mitchell Wilcox. I think we both agreed that maybe Mitchell Wilcox could have done a little bit more. It was just kind of a short pass out in the left flat, and it was a little behind Mitchell Wilcox, but he got his hands on it, and then Kyle Duggar just wrestled it away from him. So he threw the interception. He had one really bad miss just over the middle. You didn't even know who it was going to. The second unit, the offensive line, wasn't as good as the first unit. He dealt with a lot of pressures, but just it wasn't an overall clean day from Drake Maye where, we said he was erratic yesterday. You wanted to see how he bounced back. If he, cleaned up some fundamentals, would come out here and look sharper today. You didn't really see that from him. So what'd you think on his day, and I don't think we're hitting the panic button, but just any concern there with, two kind of poor days. I don't want to say really bad, but just poor days in a row.
Yeah, so for starters, I don't even think the interception was one of his worst throws. And I don't mean that to kick him. I just mean Mitchell Wilcox needed to compete for that ball more. Like, that throw to me wasn't necessarily the issue. That's just him being aggressive. The issue to me is he's just not seeing the field great, especially pre-snap, which this is kind of what we talked about with him being a developmental player. And people say, well, how can he be a developmental player? Look at him throw on the run. Look how far he can throw the ball. Look how hard he can throw the ball. And the physical tools are still undeniable. We're not taking away from any of that. But this ain't the ACC anymore. And there was one play today, Brian, I think I was standing next to you for this, where there's like 6 or 7 guys up on the line of scrimmage. And in my mind, I'm going like, I don't know for sure it's a blitz, but like, you got to be ready to throw hot, right, against this look. And he ended up having, like, I don't know this at the time, but Javon Baker on a slant on the backside, 1-on-1. And that's a pretty textbook. And I don't know exactly what the play call is, but general school thought, if you have the blitz, slant on the backside, you hear about throwing into the blitz all the time, right? Because if somebody's blitzing, they're vacating space. And if you have a receiver entering that space, there's a potential to, for a play there, if you can take advantage of it. Blitz comes off the left side, crash it. Baker runs a slant behind it. If he just pops that ball out, and he had the time to make that quick throw, it's the Kayshon Boutte touchdown against the Packers last year. I mean, it's Baker to the house. Instead,
that was a callback. The Kayshon Boutte preseason.
Thank you. Instead, so the blitz is coming from his left. So he rolls away from it, rolls all the way out to his right. He's running away and he's looking for something. And once he gets within a couple feet of the sideline, like right around the numbers, he just throws the ball away because he realized it's not there. Took half the field away, had a ton of pressure. Maybe in a game he's a little more willing to run, but that's one where he was frustrated after, and he clearly got caught off guard. So this just comes with reps. This just comes with reps in the film room. This comes with reps on the field. Like, he's got to get used to digesting what he's seeing and reading and reacting quicker. And that'll come in time. And I'm not talking about years. Like, he can still get there by, call it October. But this is kind of why, even after he had those big first couple days, and again, I said the first couple days, I liked the approach because he's still being aggressive and he was trying things. He was giving himself opportunities to learn. And I said, that comes with ups and downs. The last couple days, some of what he's tried to do has come with downs. Now we need to see how he adjusts to it. And okay, can you learn from what you did and figure out ways to make plays against those looks? That's what we'll be looking for here in the next few weeks.
Yeah. And again, it's his first NFL padded practice, right? You would expect maybe there's some bumps along the way here. It's not going to look perfect. But the one thing I want to see with Drake Maye, and we were talking about this as we were leaving Gillette, I think Arthur was kind of getting to this in the chat here. He says, does Drake Maye play with the so-called starters? Until he does, you won't know anything. Like, I would love to see him rep with like the top offensive line and some of the top receivers that he's be able to grow chemistry with, because again, he wasn't perfect. There were some misses, but I went back through it. He had 3 drops, which was Petway, and then 2 from Mitchell Wilcox. He had the Wilcox, the interception that we both thought Mitchell Wilcox could have fought a little bit better for. He had a miscommunication with David Wallace, which resulted in an interception. He had at least, 2 sacks, and then he had that throwaway where he maybe could have read it a little better, but like Zimenez was in his face right away. Zimenez got it there. And then one incompletion where he got like knocked over from the defensive line. So he didn't get a lot of help out there with the second unit. Again, right. Like, he wasn't perfect, but I would love to see him get to the point. And you were saying, again, when we were leaving Gillette, like, it took Mac Jones after the first preseason game. Then they finally started, weaving them in with the starting unit and maybe splitting some of those reps up a little bit more. So that's what I would like to see at some point here. Maybe after the preseason game is a good time to do that, because you still have to get Jacoby Brissett ready if you need him to start. But Yeah, Maye, he didn't get much help. Like, he wasn't great, but he didn't get much help out there from the rest of the guys with him today. So I would like
and some of that too. Like we'll get to the offensive line. Like it seems they have continuity up front with their tackles. This was the third day in a row, right? Third day in a row. We've seen Caedan Wallace on the left side, Chuks Okorafor on the right side. Now, Gerard Mayo said before practice today, his timeline for the offensive line is by the third preseason game. I think that means like to finalize it, but it does seem like this is the group, right? It does seem like this is the group they're starting with. Like, I don't think they're going to be constantly changing between now and then. I think the idea is, give this group a week, maybe give them that first preseason game and then reassess. But now that they have the first group set, they can also get the second group set and you can get some continuity there. And then that will help. So the second group is going to come along too.
Yep. But before we jump officially to the offensive line, anything else on Jacoby or Drake, or we can also say it was still pretty rotation heavy between Zappe and Milton today in that third quarterback spot. I thought Milton was actually pretty impressive. He had a few completions underneath, which that's what you want to see with him. We know he has a big arm, but can he control it underneath? So just anything else in that quarterback room before we go all in on the offensive line here?
Milton was good today. Milton was good. His only incompletion was a drop by Javon Baker. And it wasn't like a Joe Milton drop where, hey, Joe, take something off. And it was a hard throw, but it was a very catchable ball. I wouldn't say there's anything that extreme about it. So he was good today. He did out-rep Zappe. Neither one went in sevens. Milton went twice in 11. Zappe went once, although Zappe got one play during one of Milton's periods. It was after that fumbled snap where Milton came off for a play. But Joe Milton still looks like QB3. Now, that's as things stand right now. Do they want him as the third quarterback come the season? Because that means if Jacoby Brissett gets hurt, are you playing him over Drake Maye? I don't know that they want Joe Milton to be the first rookie quarterback they play this year. Maybe they bring in somebody else. Nathan Rourke did get cut yesterday by the Giants. But between those two guys, I mean, you can't – Milton's been the better quarterback. And I don't think it's been that close.
Yep. I'd agree with you there. So impressive day for him. And he had the interception yesterday, so good to see him kind of bounce back in that fashion. But offensive line, you hinted at it. We got Caedan Wallace back at left tackle, Chuks Okorafor back at right tackle. We were so close to getting the same five up front for 3 straight practices, but David Andrews was absent today. Well, undisclosed reason. We don't know why. Hopefully nothing serious, because we've talked about the center position a lot behind him, and we can get into that a little bit later. But let's start with the tackles.
Well, just say on center real quick, like Nick Leverett, Mafia had a bad snap, but Nick Leverett was good today, elevated with that top offense.
He was good, and he was good in one-on-ones too. So, that's a spot we'll keep watching, because we mentioned Jake Andrews has been on PUP, who's the depth, and now if David Andrews is set to miss time, again, we don't know what the reason for his absence was, but if he's set to miss time, that becomes even more important. But on the tackles, good day from Caedan Wallace, I would say. At left tackle, he held up nicely in one-on-ones. He was impressive in team drills. Like, he held his own. He didn't get beat much. So some more confidence maybe building. And also, he's spoken very highly of, like, City So talked after practice. He said, like, he's picking things up very, very quickly. Just tons of praise for Caedan Wallace, which has been kind of a reoccurring thing for his teammates. So smart kid, but more confidence from your point of view, and maybe that left tackle position with a good early impression by Caedan Wallace.
Yeah, long way to go, but good start. And you see why they felt like he had the ability to play left tackle. Now, seeing it, right, projecting it, and it actually happening are two different things. Yep. But I think on top of his athleticism, and that's obviously a part of it, what I was really impressed by today, there were a couple times where, the defense is running some, at least for this time of year, a little more advanced rush games up front, and he was hanging with it. He was hanging in there, and there are times maybe he was half a step late, but I would say for a rookie playing a new position, he handled some of the more intense stuff they threw at him, which was much more intense stuff to come, but some of the more intense stuff for day 5 at camp that they threw at him, he handled well. So I was encouraged by that. Okorafor, I get nervous watching him, and this might just be a me thing, like, because Evan talked about this, like, his technique is very unorthodox, and it's always been that way.
Did his feet look like really close together? That was
They
something
look really close together and like out in front. Like,
yeah.
I don't know. He always looks like he's about to fall backwards, and he
It's
doesn't.
a weird setup.
Yeah, and he also does, and I mean, a lot of tackles do this. Trent Brown did this, and I like that Trent Brown did this, so I won't fault Chuks Okorafor for it, but I'll point it out. I'm starting to notice it. He does the thing these guys do where they're not going on the snap count or on the verbal snap count. They know what the call is in their head, and they're trying to get that like quarter second. You know, Tristan Wirfs is big with this. Orlando Brown is big with this because the idea is, and you know, Trent Brown would get called for one false start a game, and people would get annoyed because that seems like a lot. For the other 50 something plays a game where they don't call it, and he's getting that extra head start, sometimes it's very beneficial. So Chuks Okorafor looks like he's one of those, at least today in practice, and yesterday too. I noticed. I think he's one of those guys where he's gonna really play with that snap count, and there may be some false start penalties, but you hope that it, you know, the good outweighs the bad, that he's making the most of those opportunities when it's not called.
Yep. Was he highly penalized last year? I was trying to pull that up while
That's a
you
good
talk.
question. You talk. I'll pull it up.
But yeah, I didn't think he was as good as he had 8 penalties last year.
Okay.
So I don't know what.
How many games did he play?
If
he had 8 and 17 games for a tackle, he played. I started 7 games last year. That's a little high.
Yeah, I don't know if I could.
That's a little high for 7 starts.
What that ranked among tackles here? Let me see. But yeah, I didn't think he was as good as Caedan Wallace. He lost some one-on-ones, and then he was 26th among tackles. And what did you say? He started 8 games last year, 7 games.
So that's not great.
Yeah, that's a little high. But yeah, he lost some one-on-ones, team drills. Like he was at some of those Jimenez losses, so it wasn't as perfect for him. He got in the fight with Uche, so we'll keep watching that spot. And maybe kind of the other rookie, Layden Robinson, might have been one of the most impressive offensive linemen. Had a really good win against Dietrich Wise. I think a lot of people were talking about that on Twitter. Just kind of one punch stunned Dietrich Wise. Then he held up in 11s. He kind of was at the point of attack for one of Kevin Harris's long runs. So kind of what you would expect. He's a physical guy. Pads come on. He kind of flashes for the first time here. But you think if maybe this trend continues and Layden Robinson is looking really good and Chuks Okorafor isn't looking so good, are we going to be talking about bumping Mike Onwenu back out to tackle? Layden Robinson slides up to right guard. Could you see that in our future somewhere? And just did Layden Robinson pop up on your radar today too there?
Yeah, there was one where him and Calvin Anderson, one play where him and Calvin Anderson just opened up a massive hole for Kevin Harris in the run game. I think it was the B gap. It would be between guard and tackle. I don't know what I'm saying. I think it was. That conversation you're talking about, I mean, I could see it, but again, they have this group. Let's see what this group can do. That's something we revisit after the first preseason game to me.
Yep. I'm with you there, but encouraging from the 2 rookies there. Just speaking of Big Mike, he was their best offensive lineman in one-on-one. So
shocker.
Good to see that. Yeah, I know. Shocking.
Yeah.
Shocking.
No, it's good. Like, I don't mean to be like, you know, good. They need him to be the anchor. He better be good. If he doesn't have it, they're in massive,
especially
massive
now if David Andrews is out and he's got maybe Nick Leverett and Chuks Okorafor on his 2 sides. They need him to be that solid block in there, and he looked like that today. Lastly, O-line, I just had like the backup tackles weren't very good. Vidarian Lowe was a mess again, and he was still on the right side. Didn't notice too much of Calvin Anderson playing that left side, but
I thought Calvin Anderson had a decent day. But I wonder if some of that is Calvin Anderson is their backup left tackle, and they want to get him ready there.
Yeah,
but that's one where I might switch that. And Anderson realistically is your 3rd tackle. You want him ready at both spots. Vidarian Lowe is a much better left tackle than right tackle. We know that just based on history. But you're torn because I think they want Calvin Anderson getting reps at left tackle.
Yep. So we'll keep watching that depth unit there because that's very important as well. Mafi, we mentioned another botch snap. Anything else from any of those offensive linemen that you had today?
I think Tyrone Wheatley had to run a lap. I think that's it.
Yep. But that the top unit, I think it was a step forward. And again, like the fact that they were kind of executing and opening some holes in that zone run game was encouraging. We saw 2 years ago how difficult that can be. That zone run game, getting that down, it takes a lot of reps, and to kind of be opening those holes this early, I thought was a encouraging sign there. But let's get to the rest of the offense and some of the pass catchers, and we can talk about running backs a little bit for the first time here today as well. But before we do that, we'll take one last very quick break, and we'll hear from our friends over at Factor Meals and then get to the rest of the offense. I have to talk to you guys about a new sponsor, and training camp is upon us. And sometimes Barth and I, especially Barth doing 4 shows, we don't have much time to prep dinner as we run home from Gillette Stadium before we get on live here, which is why Factor's no prep, no mess meals is the way to go. And Factor's fresh, never frozen meals are ready to eat in just 2 minutes. No matter how busy you are, you'll always have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals. Factor has a chef-created menu featuring meals such as a Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto, and plenty of other flavors to explore, with 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week. So treat yourself to restaurant-quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and blackened salmon, and head to factormeals.com/PatsBeat50 and use code PatsBeat50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That is PatsBeat50 at factormeals.com/PatsBeat50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active over at Factor Meals. All right, so pass catchers. We talked about Javon Baker a little bit while we were doing quarterbacks, but just another day and another big play. He went up and kind of mossed Alex Austin and Jalen Hawkins. He did have the one drop with Joe Milton, and then he couldn't bring in another one kind of downfield. He kind of had a dive for it from Jacoby Brissett. Maybe he could have got his hands on it. But you're seeing the big playability and just the movements. Like we've talked how maybe they want him in like that Devontae Parker role, but he's such a better athlete. Like he moves a lot different than Devontae Parker does. So I think it's been an exciting last 2 days for Javon Baker, even though you're seeing like some of the drops. Like he had a high drop percentage last year in college, but I think it's been mostly encouraging from him, especially these last 2 or 3 days.
Yeah, he keeps getting open, and it definitely felt like early on he was playing catch up, just missed time in the spring, and then was with the, he's behind some guys, didn't expect him to be behind in reps early on, but he's now getting regular reps and he's open all the time. And you're right, he likes him catch a few more of these, but he's made some spectacular catches as well. And you have to, I'm very, very encouraged by what I've seen from him so far.
Yep. Are we doing Tyquan Thornton? We said wait till the pass come on.
I'm not buying in yet, because this is the Tyquan Thornton playbook to a T. No pads on. Oh, he's great, but we got to see what the pads on. Pads, come on. Wow, he's had 1 or 2 good practices, and then there's going to be a day, probably after the first preseason game, that's usually when it is, where he has like a monster practice. He's going to catch like 3 deep balls in the first 10 minutes, and in the third one, he's going to fall and hurt himself, and we're not going to see him again. So, like, what?
Well, today he had the diving catch, and he landed.
He did. Like, he survived the ground today. He did.
Oh no! And then he
all right. I don't mean to make fun of him. Like, he's had a good start to camp. Yeah. He's definitely had a good start to camp, and today was a good day. And those are effortless catches, great routes, all of it. But he's got to stay healthy through the summer. That's just what it comes down to. Like, we've seen him kind of do this. I think part of the reason he struggled early in his career, it's not just like, really, Tyquan sucks. He's missed a lot of developmental time, getting hurt during camp, and that catches up to you. Like, that was part of the problem with N'Keal Harry. N'Keal Harry sucks. There's a reason guys suck. Guys don't just forget how to play football. And part of the reason I think Tyquan Thornton has struggled is the development stuff you work on in camp, especially for a guy that was more raw coming out of college. And I'm not saying he should have been picked where he was picked, but there's development process he needs to go through. And the reality is, you got games to get ready for October, November, December. You're not doing any of that developmental stuff. This is when you're doing it, in the spring and in the summer. So, well, and that's not me saying that if he's fully healthy, he's going to be amazing, but I like what I've seen so far. He's not going to get me to buy in until it's week 1 and he's healthy. That's just where I'm at, because I've seen this with him. I've seen it with N'Keal Harry. I've seen it with a number of receivers. A few flashy days, you get hurt and that all goes away. So I got to see him stay on the field, but credit where credit's due. He's been one of their better receivers through 5 days.
Yep, absolutely. Again, like, you'd rather be having the good days than the not good days. So, not too much else in the receiver room, I would say. Again, a lot of run game again with the first day of pads. So, I mean, Jalen Polk is just still playing a lot. He had 2 catches, I believe. He had one kind of go off his hands. Might have been a drop. It just looked like he wasn't ready for the ball. It was coming from Jacoby Brissett. So just he's still really active. I think that was really it for receivers. I don't know. Did anyone else stand out to you in that room today?
Not positively. I mean,
well, take negatives. I'm guessing.
Yeah, Juju had another rough day. Juju had another rough day, and it's going to be a real conversation. It's going to be a real conversation about what they're going to do with him when we get to the end of this thing.
Yep, agree with you there. But tight end pass catchers, I mean, Hunter Henry and Austin Hooper are still very involved with Jacoby Brissett. Like, he's going to the tight ends a lot. We talked about Mitchell Wilcox earlier, who he's on the field a lot still, but you saw the results weren't great today. Like, 2 drops, the interception went his way. So, and Jaheim Bell was limited too. He was out there, then none of us saw him leave, and then all of a sudden comes back on with like a hoodie and sweats and his jersey over his hoodie. So, the quiet kind of start. He had some nice moments in one-on-ones yesterday, but overall, it's been a pretty quiet summer from Jaheim Bell there. But anything else to add in that tight end room from today?
I'll just backtrack on Wilcox a little bit. So I've been saying a lot. I think he's going to make the team. I've been saying that because I think he's going to be dominant. Like, he's been out there a lot. He's a guy that is kind of right, given the look of a guy that they have a plan for. Now, if he is going to make the team, he's a blocking tight end. He blocks. You shouldn't be throwing him the ball a ton. Like, so we'll see. Maybe they saw the drops today and we don't see a ton of him tomorrow. It's Jacob Warren or LaMichael Petway or somebody in that role. But like, think Dwayne Allen, Mike Williams, right? As Michael Williams, the converted tackle from Alabama. I just think that if he's here to block. He's here for the goal line, and he's here for short yardage to block. And maybe, they're just kind of seeing what he can do outside of that. And they look at it today and say, yep, goal line tight end. Okay, noted. But I still think he has a chance to make the team. I think it's as a blocker. So we'll see what impact today has, but I'm not necessarily surprised. I mean, it was an excessive amount of drops, and some of those were very easy catches. Like, I wasn't expecting him to come out and be Travis Kelce.
Yeah. He's a blocking tight end, but he was. They targeted him a lot today, and you saw the results like maybe you would expect. So we'll see if that plan maybe changes for Mitchell Wilcox. But again, the usage would indicate like he has a chance of making this team, but maybe that changes as we move forward here. But lastly, running back room. Anyone stand out to you? First day of pads, finally got some contact. We saw, Terrell Jennings is a physical runner. He had some pop in one of his runs, but it was still kind of the Ramondre and Antonio Gibson and Kevin Harris looked like he's kind of RB3 in that mix. But anyone in that running back room make an impact for you now that they got the pads on and kind of start implementing more of that run game?
So like you said, Terrell Jennings is just one play, but that's how you make an impact at the bottom of the depth chart. Just put his shoulder right into Del Pettis' chest, and I got an O from the crowd. You like seeing those guys run hard, but Kevin Harris moving well, did a good job. Quick decisions, finding the hole, showed some burst. He's been clearly in the lead for that third back spot throughout camp, and he's been really good. He's been really good so far.
Does he look a little quicker to you?
He does. Looks a little smaller, a little quicker. I wonder if he took a couple pounds off in order to be a little lighter on his feet. In this system, that would make sense. But good start for him.
Yep. And then Ramondre and Gibson are what they are. I think the most exciting part about Gibson so far is his work as a pass catcher. Like, they're moving him around. He had a screen that he took a while, and then he had one that, he was in the slot, and it was just like a quick slant, but Milton hit him in stride, and it was a big gain. Like, that's something that offense has kind of been lacking. So encouraging that he's out there, a big role right away. I think that's someone a lot of us expect could be a good player for them this year, Antonio Gibson. So I believe that's all for the offense. Anything else to add or that we missed or in your notes?
I think that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I think that's it. So special teams, we saw no live field goals today, no live punts today. We saw a little bit of kickoffs. It was kind of weird though. They were like kicking it from the 50-yard line. They were just like,
yeah, they weren't in the regular formation. Now, Gerard Mayo said something before practice about how the league is still fine-tuning the rules, and that's made it tough for them to prepare. So I wonder maybe if there's a change coming that we haven't heard about. And I don't think they'd make that massive a change moving the ball, but just something in the way they're practicing it. So I find it tough to take a ton out of that kickoff period because there just wasn't. Yeah, I don't know how much it reflected what they're actually going to do.
Yeah. The one change that Chad Ryland told us after practice that we saw them do in the spring when they were laying the football flat on the tee, and then they were kind of kicking it so it would land in the landing zone a little bit easier. The league has changed the rule, so that's no longer legal. Ryland said like the ball actually has to sit in the tee, so they can't do that flat kick anymore for whatever reason.
That's stupid. I hate that.
I know.
That's stupid. That's a fun little wrinkle.
I know.
Boo. No fun league strikes again.
I hope we didn't ruin that. We probably put that on Goodell's radar, and he's like, end this nonsense.
You did this, Brian.
Sorry. But yeah, no other real special teams note, I think. Maybe we'll see them actually run this for real at some point. Who knows? But and we'll probably get back to live field goals at some point there. But I believe that's our Day 5 recap. So we'll be back tomorrow. We'll be live from Gillette Stadium for another crossover show with Mike and Taylor. Probably it's around 3:30, but follow Patriots CLNS on Twitter and subscribe to Patriots Press Pass for a more accurate time. And if you turn on notifications, you'll get notified when we do go live. Are you expecting them to be in pads again tomorrow? They have a day off.
Yeah, I'm guessing pads tomorrow with the day off, and then kind of light end to the week.
Yep. So hopefully an eventful day tomorrow. I don't know what the weather's looking like. If we're gonna have another rainy day, or looks like it's gonna be nice tomorrow. So good weather down there at Gillette. Pads should be back on with a day off on Wednesday, and we'll be back again for a crossover live from Gillette to break it all down. But until then, follow Alex on Twitter at RealAlexBarth. Head over to 985thesportshub.com to read his Day 5 training camp coverage. And you can follow me on Twitter at @IamBrianHines and head to patspulpit.com to read our written Patriots coverage over there as well. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in with us tonight, and we will see you from Gillette Stadium tomorrow.